John here, and today doing something a little bit different and hopefully fun. But this is going to be the kickoff to a series of videos where I'm going to redo the Expendables franchise. And, kind of thinking if I could go back and, redo things, change some stuff up, lay out some casting ideas, perhaps improve stuff, what would I do? And sort of my own dream world. Again, this is sort of me having fun here. I know a couple of friends of mine have done this sort of topic not too long ago. Fabio, the Italian Stallion 51, great guy up here. I think he did a topic about this. Rambo for Life, Matt. I think he did a topic, about this. And I've sort of done something like this before, but not this way where I have categories. I've written down some categories here. And I didn't go too crazy on the categories. Because this is my first movie. If I'm going to, redo each film, you have to go back to the beginning here. And again, this is going to be my first movie. So, again, we're going back and, redoing some things, lay out some casting ideas. So, to go over the categories here, which I've written down. And you don't have to go by this list of categories, but, I sort of kept it from like 8 to 9 different categories here. Whether if you want to go by this or if you want to create, your own, or, if you want to add one. But, again, we're talking about the first movie here. So to go over the categories for the first movie, the first one is the Expendables team. Now, for this movie, the first one, I want to have 4 members. To me, that's a good number, where it's not too many, but it's a good sort of, appetizer, if you will, for what will come. Because, as I go along here and talk about the sequels later on, I'll add more people. And, I'll get a little bit more nuts. But for this first movie here, I just want to have 4 members. The next category here is the main villain, the dictator. And I'm not straying too far off from the first movie, because in the first movie you had a dictator character. I forgot the actor that played the dictator, but, to sort of, again, not go too far off from the first movie, I'll kind of keep it, similar to the plot, similar to different villains here, like the villains that you did see in the first movie. The next category we have is the government CIA villain, turncoat type of character, which you had in the first movie, that kind of CIA villain. Next up, we have supporting villains. The next category we have the government official / contact. In parentheses, I put good because this character is a good guy. Next up, we have weapons specialist. Now, this is a category that I've added, to sort of have some fun here. If I could have that type of character in my first movie, you got to have a weapons specialist. Really, I'm going to have a weapons specialist in each one. Like, in every movie, I got to have a different actor play that part of a weapons specialist, a guy that, would provide the group weapons and, at the same time have some banter with the guys. So, I want to have that, I want to have that category throughout the franchise. The next one here is special appearance / Expendables veteran. Which veteran actor would I have appear in the first movie? And this is actually going to be a consistent category throughout the franchise, which I'll lay out. But, it could be 1 appearance, like veteran appearance, or it could be 2. But for this movie, the first movie, I'm just going to have, 1 person appear as, again, the Expendables veteran. The next category is director. Who I would have direct the movie, the first movie here. And the last category is a couple of side notes. You know, it could be like 2 to 3 things that you would like to see for your first movie. You know, what would you like to see be improved, or things that, again, you would like to see, or it could be anything. Again, just like 2 to 3 things I'll mention. I'm not going to go crazy here. And I know someone's going to point out, well, you know, before I lay out the casting ideas and, you know, go over my ideas of who I would cast, I know someone's going to say, well, you know, you can't have everybody in there, and I'm aware of that. You know, I'm not gonna try to fit everybody like into my first movie, or even, you know, throughout the franchise. You know, obviously I can't have everybody, and not everybody is going to be a good guy. Yeah, I'm not going to go the route of, you know, the Expendables 2, where you have a bunch of Expendables and 2 villains, you know, like Van Damme and Scott Adkins. You know, I want to make sure that, you know, as far as that goes, that we're evened out, that, you know, not everybody is going to be a good guy. And so I want to make that, you know, clear. And like I said, I'm aware that, you know, as I go along here, you know, realistically, you know, I can't have everybody, but, you know, I'll go a little bit more nuts when I get to the sequels, and I'll add more as I go along in terms of members of the team, the Expendables team. And so, but I'll go more into that when I, you know, get to that bridge. So you'll see a quick edit here. I'm going to do a quick edit, and when I'll be back, you'll see sort of the categories filled in of names, and I'll go over my choices. So hang tight, and I'll be back in a flash. So now that the categories are filled in here, I'll go over my casting ideas. So for the first category of the Expendables team, I have 4 members, and the actors that I chose are Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Jet Li, and Dolph Lundgren. And to me, I think it's a very solid team for the first movie. You know, and when you go back to the first movie, of course, you know, you had Randy Couture and Terry Crews, but, you know, as much as I like Terry Crews, I could have gone without those 2, and I would have kept it, again, at these 4. Again, I feel that, you know, these 4 guys right here, this is a good start. So, yeah, for the first movie, I would go with these guys. For the next category of the main villain / dictator, you know, which you had in the first movie, I forgot the actor's name, but if I could change that up a little bit, I would cast Andrew Divoff. Yeah, the bad guy from Toy Soldiers, Wishmaster. But yeah, for me, he would play the dictator, you know, as a guy that he may not be, let's say, you know, the main villain, but he would be a villain, you know, a guy that you would recognize and be like, hey, that's Andrew Divoff, you know, the Wishmaster, you know, the villain in Toy Soldiers. You know, to me, he would be right for that role, as a guy that, again, that you've seen before, a face that, hey, there's that guy. You know, to me, he would be perfect as the dictator. Next up, you have the government CIA villain. Now, in the first movie, you sort of had that character in Eric Roberts, and to me, he did a great job, but, you know, if I could sort of, you know, change it up a little bit, I would have James Woods. Yeah, which I think he was, I want to say he was asked to be in one of the films. You know, if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I thought at some point James Woods was asked, or maybe thought about, but, you know, I would have had him, like, I would have had James Woods play that character. Like, to me, he's right for that part. He's a great actor. You know, you saw him play a villain in White House Down, but, I mean, just look at his career. You know, a lot of great movies, you know, Videodrome, and, you know, John Carpenter's Vampires, and so much more. But, you know, you would have a reunion between Stallone and Woods because they did The Specialist. So, you know, I would have James Woods play that CIA turncoat type of character, Again, the Eric Roberts role, which he was great in, but I'm a fan of Eric Roberts. But again, if I would change it up a little bit, James Woods. For the supporting villains, I would still keep Gary Daniels and Steve Austin. To me, I felt they were good at that part. Sort of playing the bodyguard type of grunts. In the first movie. So you can still have the Steve Austin and Stallone fight. The Gary Daniels, Statham fight. So I would still keep those two guys in there as, again, sort of grunts, the bodyguard types. The next category of the government official / contact, I would still have Bruce Willis, as the character of Church. I would still have him in the first movie, and I would still have a scene between him and Stallone in the church. So, again, I'm sort of setting up here a little bit, and this is kind of, if you want to say, setting up the sequels, but, Bruce Willis would still be in the first movie, and he would still be that character. Now, the next category, that I've added here, and again, this is a character that I would have had in the first movie as a weapons specialist, a good guy that, would provide the group weapons and at the same time, have a little banter with the guys or make fun of the guys. I would have Keith David. Keith David from They Live and Men at Work. Have him appear in the film and, again, just have fun with it. Sort of like, Men at Work, where you can play that sort of crazy type of character, never touch another man's fries. And just sort of, again, that sort of cuckoo, not entirely there, maybe with a little bit of They Live mixed in. So, I don't know, maybe you can get into a fist fight with, Dolph Lundgren or something, but I'm not saying Keith David would take Dolph Lundgren, but, maybe, I don't know, maybe you could have like a fight like a la They Live. But, Keith David would be great as, again, the weapons specialist. I think he'd be a good fit in there. Maybe you can have him make fun of the group, make fun of Statham or Dolph Lundgren. But, Keith David will be in the first movie as the weapons specialist. Special appearance, Expendables veteran. I gotta have Clint Eastwood in my first movie. To me, I'm surprised they never brought in Clint Eastwood, like throughout the franchise, even for like an appearance. Kind of like what they did for Harrison Ford. Why they never brought him in, I don't know, but maybe he was asked, and maybe it was a matter of schedule. But I would have Clint Eastwood in the first movie here. Have him share some scenes with Sly, and then maybe in the third act, the climax, have Clint Eastwood appear a little bit. Have him fire a weapon. Maybe, kind of how like what they did with Chuck Norris in the second movie, but less parody, less, spoof-like, but really show and showcase, Eastwood here, that like this is his last hoorah, his last, swan song. Let him go in there and, take out some bad guys and, do it Dirty Harry style, or, the Good and Bad and Ugly style. But yeah, I definitely would have Clint Eastwood in the first movie. And, maybe he'll come back at some point. But it would be great to have him, again, share some scenes with Sly, share some dialogue, with Stallone, and, definitely get involved in the third act, where you see Eastwood firing a weapon and taking out some bad guys. So Eastwood will be that special appearance. Director, I gotta pick Sylvester Stallone. Now I'm going a little bit ahead of myself here. But I would have Stallone direct the first movie. To me, he did a very good job on the first movie. I mean, yeah, one thing I would say, when I talk about, side notes, I'll mention that. But for Stallone, again, directing the first movie, he was the guy that was really behind this idea of, making this idea happen, by bringing guys from the past, action stars and certain actors that, deserve a second chance, and, making this movie happen. He was the guy, the cheerleader of, this idea, and, really getting this done. So I would have Stallone still direct this movie, and, as for the sequels, I haven't thought about that yet, but, at least for the first movie here, yes, Stallone, I would still, have him direct the film. So I would say that, as far as my directing choice. Now, to mention a couple of side notes here, again, I just sort of mentioned, 2 to 3 things here that I want to have for the first movie, either improved or what have you. But so a couple of side notes here. More practical blood, and I think I spelled practical. Yeah. There you go. Practical. There you go. A little typo there. Yeah, more practical blood. Yeah, I don't know what's up there, what happened there, but so more practical blood I would definitely, utilize, and that's one thing that a nitpick that I have with the first movie and on is the CG blood. You don't need CG blood. To me, I would have, practical blood, utilize more practical, and definitely I would hammer that home, with the first movie and on. That's one thing that I want to make sure they want to get, do it right. Don't go CG, use practical, and, bullet squibs, whatever you got to do, put in the extra hard work to make it all practical. And so it's really a throwback. Next up, I have a couple of more scenes with Mickey Rourke. Yes, Mickey Rourke would still be in this movie as that character Tool. And I know, again, someone might say, well, you have too many people. Well, we haven't gotten to the sequels yet. So, when I get to the sequels, we'll do more like, teams and what have you. And, we'll get a little bit more crazier, but it's not going to be too far off where, I'm going to have like 80 people in my second movie. I understand I'm not going to have everybody. And I mean, when you look at these categories here and who I have for the first movie, it's not a lot of people. I mean, you have your main 4, you have your villains, and you have, a couple of appearances. I mean, Andrew Divoff, hey, there's that guy. Keith David, hey, there's that guy from, They Live. Eastwood appearance. Bruce Willis appearance. So it's not too much. It's not too far off, but yeah, I mean, Mickey Rourke, I would still have him in the film. I mean, give him a couple more scenes with, Stallone, or, maybe you could have him be involved in some action. Be interesting to see. But I would definitely work on that a little bit more. And as for the third thing here, the last thing of note, I would have Bruce Willis, his character warn Stallone about Arnold. So you can still have the meeting in the church and just have Bruce Willis say, hey, there's this other character out there. Like, there's another character out there that is after your head. I'm warning you right here that, Arnold's character is out there, and, he's in your peripheral. So, be on the lookout, because he may have a team, or he may have, some dangerous people or what have you. So I would definitely, throw that in there as, again, something different. So I would not have Arnold in this movie. I would not have Arnold in my first movie, but I would have Bruce Willis and Stallone, having a scene in the church, and Bruce Willis warns Stallone about Arnold's character. So that's kind of it for this. Again, this is the first movie here. And again, I'm just having fun. if you guys want to see more, I'll definitely, I mean, again, I have 3 more of these movies to go, to do. So I have more ideas to write down and ideas to work on. But, again, whether if you want to go by this list of categories or if you want to maybe add 1 or 2 or create your own. But again, I just sort of kept it small, for now. I didn't go overboard. At least I don't think I did here, but it's good enough. And yeah, so thank you for watching. Again, hope you liked it. Again, I'm just having fun here, but stay tuned for more, and there'll definitely be more. I definitely want to do more. But again, thank you for watching, and have a good day.